Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to our webinar today. We should start in about 45 seconds, but before we get to that, just a couple of things I wanted to point out. So just with the way of introduction, just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Michael Yanosev. I'm actually one of the senior account managers here at Intuit. And essentially what I do is I work with accountants and bookkeepers in our southern Alberta markets. Two things I wanted to point out. On your screen, you should see the questions box. So any of you that have actually joined these webinars in the past have probably used it, but feel free to kind of ask questions throughout the presentation. When our presenter is presenting, and if there's any relevant questions I see that she can answer at that time, I'll just kind of interrupt her and get her to answer them. Other than that, we will get to them towards the end of the presentation as well. And we will have a poll, which you will see populate on your screen around kind of midway throughout the presentation. But that's pretty much it. Again, if anybody has questions, feel free to ask. But without further ado, would love to present and introduce to you guys Kellie Parks.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everybody, or morning if you happen to be out west somewhere. Thank you for. Am I going now, Michael? Am I going to yak away?
You are. Yes. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm Kellie Parks, and I am going to be presenting on optimizing your customers' lives. I am a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and I am certified. I'm advanced pro certified in QuickBooks Online. I'm a desktop certified. I'm also certified with a whole bunch of our partners, such as HubDoc, Pluto, Practice Ignition, Receipt Bank. I'm a bit of an appaholic, and I love the cloud technology. I am a bookkeeper. Oh, let's go back to here for a minute. I am a bookkeeper, and I have a book of business that I absolutely love being a bookkeeper, and then I do consulting to firms on enjoying cloud bookkeeping as much as I do. And now we'll get into our agenda. So as I mentioned, our topic is optimizing your customers' lives, and I am a giant believer in processes and systems, best practices, and workflow to get all of that going so that your customers' lives in their business are seamless. Their experience with you is enjoyable, and your experience with them is enjoyable. So we're going to do a quick overview of what we're going to do. Then I'm going to get to the topic of messaging and collateral. Then I'm going to talk about collaboration, and then we'll do a quick summary. So in this topic, one of the things that I would like to mention is that you're going to see a little bit of repeat, because collaboration sometimes will flow over into reporting, and collaboration is part of your messaging and collateral. So if I repeat myself, I apologize, but not really, because it's okay to hear the message a couple of times if it's going to benefit your customer. So cloud accounting is fantastic. I love it, and it actually is creating real-time data for my customers. They can access it whenever they want. They can make agile decisions. They can pivot. They can grow. They can prosper. But it's a collaborative environment. We're sharing processes and we're sharing programs all the time. So you have to make that process seamless for them. As well, you can only get done for them what they give to you. In our old world, where they gave us all of their documents in a folder, and then we worked our way through the folder, it was a little black and white what you had and what you didn't have. Now you're going to have to optimize some processes so that they know what you're going to get done. And I'm actually going to stop sharing my video for just 2 seconds, and then I'm going to come back. I'll be 2 seconds there. Hi there, I'm back. I had an inappropriate plaque on the back of my wall I could see. So this is a collaborative relationship, and as I said, now you're really going to have to work a little bit harder to make sure that everybody's on board with your processes. The easier you make it for them, the more likely it is to get done. Setting yourself and your customers up for success is about managing expectations, having clear processes, and these things are almost more important than the apps you pick. There's a ton of great apps out there that you can use to collaborate on, But no matter what the app is, you're going to have a good process for that. You're going to have a system, and you're going to have a way of communicating that. I just said, you're going to have to effectively communicate those processes. That is so key. So we're going to talk about the importance of templating and automating your communications, providing clear directions for document sharing, and setting expectations about how and when you're going to communicate with your customer. Oh. If you get this going, if you and your customer really get this program rocking, you're making your customers' lives better by streamlining your shared work, giving them actual access to real-time data. It's did I say actionable? Actionable business data, and freeing up their time to do the things they love. And of course, we're all going to pick different things that we love. So I know we're supposed to be talking about customers, but I'm going to come back to us as accounting professionals for a minute. It's okay for it to free up time for us to do some stuff we love as well. So if that means you want to take on more customers, if it means you want to take more time off, if you want to keep the same amount of customers and still, you know, work in your business more, or is that on your business? If you get your customers on board, if you optimize their lives, you're actually optimizing your life as an accounting professional at the same time. Takeaway number one. Make it easy so it gets done. Client-facing collateral is key to so many aspects of your business, whether it's branding, accountability, setting expectations. Creating solid collateral is one of the most important things that you can do to keep your business rolling along and to optimize your customers' lives. It's the best way to keep your customers in the loop effectively. Templated communications. They're one of my favorite things. I couldn't get through my day without all of the communications that I have templated. Make sure your messaging is clear, consistent, and concise. This is great for branding, but it's also fantastic for your messaging so that your customers understand what it is you're trying to get them to do and what it is you're trying to say.
Kellie,
so I'm going to say it again.
Just a quick question. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
With regards to branding and whatnot, what do you think for people that are maybe just starting? Like, what kind of advice could you give them, or where should they start?
On branding?
Yeah, like, well, I mean, you talked about templates as well. Like, what do you think would be like the most important aspect to kind of get that message across?
Oh, okay. So actually, we're going to go down that path right now. We're going to talk about what I mean by collateral and what I think the best ways to get your messages across are. Is that it for questions right now, Michael?
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I kind of seemed like I was yelling there, but I can't emphasize enough that your messaging is concise and clear and consistent. Emails. So hopefully this starts to lend itself to that question. Emails are a key communication to template. I don't even want to tell you how many templated emails, because I'll look like some sort of crazy person. But if I am ever going to send an email again, I template it. And then I have a naming convention for it so that I can find it again. So it's great to template them, but then you have to name them to make sure that you can find them again. So emails are the first thing that I would do if I want to template my communications. Never create an email twice. Gmail and Outlook have the capacity for basic templating. So in Gmail, it's called canned responses. Outlook, I'm not as familiar as Outlook. I'm not a Microsoft person. I have one customer that I work, I do send out invoices, and what I've created in there is an email signature so that the signature becomes the message that I'm sending out. So I'm never composing that email. I'm just attaching the invoices and sending it off that way. There's a ton of apps out there, though, to template and manage your emails. Email signatures, I lent to that a little bit, that in Outlook, I actually use an email signature to create a template. but I'm big on email signatures. So in my email program, I actually have a half a dozen different email signatures. So in addition to templating my communications, my email signatures are a call to action for certain things. So one of them has my referral link into my Pro Advisor site. One of them is my client handbooks for when they start to fall off. And we're going to talk about the client handbook in a minute. And so when I'm talking about a call to action in your email, I'm also saying if you want them to phone you, put your phone number in their email signature. And I know that sounds pretty simple, but do you know how many times I get an email and there isn't a phone number and I have to email them back to ask for a phone number? So make sure it's easy for them to initiate and complete the action for the reason that you're communicating. Put in a privacy statement. If it's very important to you that you have a privacy statement, make sure it's in there. I know that goes without saying as well, but I'm just saying anyways. And set boundaries about business hours. If you really want people only calling you during the day, put that in your email signature. Say we're available to communicate at a certain time. And Slack. So I think some of us have heard of Slack in here, and I'm not going to go down the Slack rabbit hole because that will be a whole entire webinar. But email isn't the only way to communicate. So there are other ways outside of email that may be more convenient or more effective for your firm. So when I'm talking about communicating, I'm talking about email, but maybe you want to use a different form of communication. Just make it clear what you want to happen, when you want it to happen, how it's going to happen, and why. What is the reason you're communicating, and what's the outcome you're looking for? Completely, absolutely, undeniably clear. That will cut down on your communications with your customers, and that will optimize their lives because they're also not mucked down in emails and trying to figure out what everybody wants to have happen. And again, completely, absolutely, undeniably clear. Mutual respect is curated. So you want to create an atmosphere of respect with your customers. You want to respect them, you want them to respect you, and you want them to respect your team. It's not magic though. You have to work at it, and you've got to set up some ways to set the expectations and create respect. One of the ways that I use is creating contract templates. Easy for me to say. I set expectations and accountability with contracts. So I do the contracts with my customers, and they do a renewal at the beginning of their fiscal year. So I start that. So if their fiscal year ends, the start of their new fiscal year is October 1st, I start that process September 1st. And we've now set the stage for next year on expectations and accountability for what our business work together is going to look like. Account and access to applications. I set up contracts so that when I'm punting off year-end work, I don't do taxes. So as soon as I'm sending off year-end work to accountant, maybe it's an accountant I don't work with all the time, maybe it's a new accountant for my customer, I don't care what the scenario is. I actually have a contract that goes to both the accountant and the customer saying, I'm about to hand over access to your, whether it's HubDoc, QBO, whatever, Pluto, in case they want to check on payables, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, reporting approval. So I send out a contract that basically says, hey, did you read the reports? Did you approve the reports? Are we all set to go on whatever the next process is? Is it year end? Is it closing out a file, whatever the case may be? Questionnaires. I pull in key information. It becomes useful and it becomes easy to access. I use Google Forms, or I use a program called 17 Hats to manage my practice, and it has questionnaires built right into it. But Google Forms, you can take that and then you can convert it all over to Sheets. So if you want to take some information and then convert it to an overall spreadsheet, it's super simple to do in Google Forms. Questionnaires can also behave like customer workflows. Questionnaires are essentially, they're a bit of a checklist that you go through, and you can put in some messaging in it. You can do all kinds of things. So they can act like a customer workflow. And I'm not sure if there's anything better than customer workflows. My customers all have a workflow that they work through that are customized for them. It's super fun. They know what they're going to do next. Their workflow doesn't have to be complicated. It's really just a few simple tasks to keep moving them along, to remind them what they have to get done, and then they don't have to think about it. They can just go to that questionnaire, they can go to that Google form, a fillable PDF, whatever you're using, check off a few little things, and they're going, oh yeah, right. I was supposed to send them whatever it is, X. I'm supposed to do Y. I'm supposed to make sure my bank feeds are still connected. Whatever it is, don't make them guess what they're supposed to do. It also helps you make sure you're getting through their stuff as well. Did you forget to ask them for something? Whatever the case may be. And we're going to take a quick look. As I said, the customer workflow doesn't have to be complicated. Just take a look at this for 2 seconds. So a great thing with that is, if I forget to send them their PD7A for some reason, it's right in their list that they were supposed to approve a PD7A. It's a bit of a stopgap on making mistakes. I have checklists for myself. I think if any of you know me, the word's gone out that I believe in workflows, but that doesn't mean that somebody else can't make me accountable for my work as well. Automate what you can. Start of the month call to action email, birthday salutations, reports. I use QBO custom reports for things like if I have a couple of restaurant clients, they do zero-sum sales receipts. I need to know, and they need to know, that their sales are accurate before I can really start to work in their file. So on the 4th of the month, an automatic customized sales receipt or a daily sales report goes out to them so that they can double check it. I don't have to do anything. It arrives in their email and they know that they have to do something with it. MailChimp's great for automation as well. Automagical nagging. My start of the month, my call to action email goes out on the 1st of the month automatically. I don't have to send it. And it reminds them what they need to do. Get stuff into HubDoc, get their mileage and personal expenses or expenses paid personally in, make sure their connections are working, make sure their zero-sum sales receipts are all done, whatever the case may be. Automagical nagging. So I did see the question about what I consider customer-facing collateral, customer handbook, or PDFs of their key need to knows. Michael, I'm just going to say that I can't see the questions. They're kind of hidden from me. Are we good for now on questions?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. That was the first one that we had, was the client-facing collateral.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna, okay. So I have created a customer handbook. Creating simple documents for your clients just so that they know where they stand with you is a little bit magical as well. I have best practices, workflows, education pages, boundaries that I've set. Maybe they want to let me know their boundaries, and an engagement summary in it. And we're going to take a quick run through that as well, because I'd like this to be kind of actionable for you so you can see what things look like. So at the beginning is just a little, hey, how are you? I'm glad you're here. There is this is a compliance page. This is what's going to keep them out of hot water with the CRA. This is a little blurb on why cloud accounting. Just because I believe in it doesn't mean that I shouldn't give them some information, some reasons to understand what's important about it. Commonly used accounting terms. I don't want to assume that they know what depreciation means, that they know what accrual means, that they know what cost of goods sold means. I want them to have a reference sheet to that. Creating financial statements, there's links into here. Intuit has some great resources, and I've used those resources to the max in my, my booklet. Client engagement and best practices. So these are actually best practices around how to manage their books. They're not necessarily, some of them go back to lecturing about compliance with the CRA, but a lot of them are just about how to manage their business, how to make their books work better, how to make their books more real to them, more meaningful. There's a client checklist in here, a workflow checklist. And then there's a statement about how we are going to collaborate and share effectively. And then there's tutorials. I want my customers, if they have a problem in one of the apps, I want them to be able to go in and know how to fix it. I don't want them to be trying to get a hold of me and they can't and be frustrated. I want to empower them to be able to fix something in the moment. Sample client letter for HubDoc and Pluto. And then this is just a general outline. It's not my actual one. It's just a general engagement outline that gives them an overview of what that's going to look like. So reporting. Let me just see where we're at for time. 1:20. So we're doing fine. Reporting. You've done all this terrific work. Their books are operating in real time, and the data is accurate and compliant. This is fantastic. Everybody's happy. But how do you make this useful for your customer? How do you make it actionable for them? How do you make them understand it? How do you make them care about it? Would be another good starting point. And Michael's going to do a poll for us.
Yeah. So on your screen here, just a quick question. We just kind of want to get a sense of where everybody is at. So the question is, have you created customer-facing workflows? And the three options are yes, no, and yes, but they could use some work. So just want to kind of see what everybody has been trying.
Oh, okay. This is an interesting one.
So right now we have 0% of people have said yes and they work great.
Yeah, I saw that. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect, right, for the conversation we're having. But yeah, that's very interesting.
Okay, we're just going to hang on another minute. We've got 82% of the people in, which means that there's a few people sleeping. And Michael, you can let me know when we're going to close out the poll. Oh, you did close it out, haven't you?
Yeah, let's go ahead. We close it. So the final was 62% no, and then 38% yes, but they could use some work.
Okay, so here's what I got out of that. I am so glad to see that 38% have started in on that. I really believe that just getting started on something is the key. They don't have to be perfect, but just getting started on something it's such a great thing to do. I'm a little like I said, the customer facing workflow doesn't have to be complicated. And you know what? Let's go back to here for 2 seconds. So this is my customer facing workflow, and I'm going to go a little off topic. Some of my topics as we move along are going to cross over each other anyways. So I'd really like to talk about this. I have like kind of it broken out into phases of when they need to do it, and those phases match my workflows. So I can't get a whole lot done other than to go in and review and see what my customers have been up to at the beginning of the month. I'm waiting on a lot of stuff for them. So this is what I'm looking for here, is are all of these things done? And I've given timeline dates on them. So it's just gives them a little push in the right direction of when they need to get it done. And then it sets the expectations for them of when I'm going to send them stuff and what's going to happen with it. And then at the end, when I say it makes me accountable as well, one of the tasks that they have to check off is, did I even send it to them? And it says, get a hold of ComWaters if you didn't receive your filing report. My goal is to have the filing reports to them for mid-month, but a few of my clients have those kind of weird off-cycle bank statement things going, so we get a little bit of a delay there. I want them to get back to me if they didn't hear from me for any reason either. It's not such a big deal for me, but if somebody has a team, you may want to make sure that none of this is falling through the loops. And if you can engage your customers to make sure that your HST filing report, that their profit and losses come to them in time to get filed, you're optimizing their lives, because if HST is getting filed on time, they're a lot less likely to be audited or have a full-blown audit. I mean, the more compliant they are, and they can stay more compliant if they harass you a little bit too. So I try to make my customers accountable for that. And as I said, and give me a second here. I'm going to go into this. This is my Google one that I mentioned, my customer workflow, and we're going to look at it in real time here. This one is way more simple than the one in my book. It doesn't give dates. It's literally just a checklist. You can also create this in a document and just make it a clickable PDF and send it off to them. But it's not complicated. It would take you all of 5 minutes to create this. And I'm not saying that all your customers are going to be compliant in it. I'm not saying that all of the things I'm suggesting that we do in this webinar are going to make everything perfect. All you can do is take steps to make things better, to make things more manageable, to make things more effective, and to optimize your relationship with your customer. So here we are again. Takeaway number 3. I want my customers to feel confident, which is educated. I want to empower them to be able to do some things even when they can't get a hold of me, or to feel like they can go ahead and be engaged in their books at the time that they want to be engaged, which comes to the point of I want to make them feel somewhat autonomous. I don't want them to be super dependent on me for everything to happen. I want them to be a part of the process as well. One of the things I start with, and I already touched on this, is creating customized reports and showing them how to access it. So all of my customers and anybody that I work with in the accounting firms, I've shown them to create those customized reports, and then show your customer how to get to them. It's really simple. You go to the reports tab, you go to customized, and boom, there's a lot of their stuff right there for them to access, and they can access it whenever they want. And the more engaged they are in getting their stuff into HubDoc, Receipt Bank, QBO, keeping their work up, if they keep their work up, their reports are literally in the moment. So it gives them a little impetus. If they know that they can access that any time and it's going to be useful to them, they're actually more engaged in the bookkeeping process and getting their documents to you or into the programs, or at least that's been my experience. So empower them to check in their business when they want to, not when you decide to send the reports. Create a cheat sheet of the hows, whys, and whats of reporting. You saw a little bit of this in my customer handbook. And like I said, post articles on your website or into social media sites. Okay, sorry, I'm being distracted. My entire house is under renovation. I can't see it. And now they're making fun of me. I'm really sorry. I had to get off track there. It's my specialty. So I use links from Intuit. I think I mentioned before, they've got some great stuff. And all of these links, so this is the importance of their reports, and just gives them a snapshot of what the reports mean, and then a link to go in to it, which is a more involved description of what the reports are and what they mean to them. Again, this isn't complicated. You can it just gives your customer a little more comfort in the reporting. Take the time to explain what to look for. A lot of the time, if they look in their profit and loss, and I think we've all seen this, but how many of us are creating collateral for them that explains this to them, that they don't have to come back to you and ask again. A lot of people aren't going to ask a question another time because they feel kind of dumb. So if you explain to them that the profit and loss is important because that's how much money you're making, but it's not a reflection of what the business is worth or why you don't have any cash in the bank, or hopefully why you have more cash in the bank than you thought you should. If you have all of that information laid out for them, they're going to feel more confident. You explain it the first time, and then they get to read about it again. I don't mind if they come back and ask me again, but sometimes they're not going to. And if they don't know what those reports are about, they're not as likely to care about them. Set up meetings, virtual or otherwise, to run through them. So even if you've already empowered them to go in and look at them, I still like to discuss them. Sometimes they may know something about their business that you don't. Maybe I've missed something. A little while ago, I was having heart failure over what had happened with payroll, and it turns out, of course, it was biweekly payroll, and there was a third payroll cycle. I should have known that that was the case, but I didn't. I had a little heart failure instead. I've talked to my customers a couple of times, especially in the restaurant business, cost of goods sold, cost of goods sold. It's a big discussion for us. I don't think you can have that discussion with them enough. So even they look in there and they see what the problems are, having somebody saying to them, you've got to do something about this. Or you're doing a great job improving that. How great is that conversation to have with a customer to say, wow, your cost of goods sold have really changed the game for you. Set the expectation that they need to confirm with you that they have read them, that they do care about them, that they do understand them. So I do some follow-up with them. I actually have a questionnaire that goes out that makes sure that they read them and they understood them. Create processes and set expectations for collaboration. Ugh, that's a big statement. Cloud accounting is a whole new way of interacting with your customers. It is so visible and everybody can have their hand in there, even if it's just looking at reporting. It is a new way. It's a great way of interacting with your customers. I know a lot of people are sort of like, oh, it's all virtual and it's all cloud. I'm not going to have that same relationship with my customer. I would say my customer relationships have improved. Even when I go see them in person, we have all kinds of other things to talk about now. And that's been great because a lot of the work is done. So it is a whole new way of interacting with your customers. It's awesome, but only if you're all on the same page. You've got to set the whole group of you up for success, being clear upfront about how you're going to communicate and how you're going to share documents. So I think I already mentioned customized reporting. I cannot emphasize this enough. They are not just a way for reporting data. They're a great way of making your customers' tasks simple. And I will say they're a great way of making your own tasks simple. I have, I mentioned sales, I have restaurant customers, and in there, of course, we've got sales clearing for their zero sum. And I have different versions of the sales clearing on what I want to see. It's part of my workflow to check their sales clearing, make sure it's reasonable. I'm going to reconcile it later, but in the beginning, I just want to check and see where they're at on their sales clearing. It's a custom report for me, and it's built out a number of different ways, so I can look at it in all the meaningful ways to me. My customers can also look at it. Sales clearing now means something to my customers, and that's a big leap from a couple of years ago. Daily sales, like I said, I send out their daily sales reports. It automatically goes out at the beginning of the month. And again, also, I've set up recurring transactions for them to make sure that it's easy for them to do. So all they have to go do is go in and fill those out, and then they have to go to undeposited funds and make that deposit. It's not scary for them because we've laid out the system for them. I already talked about customer workflows. I already said Google Forms is great. If you are really struggling with customer communications, if you're really struggling with sharing documents and just getting things back and forth from them, Client Hub is built just for that purpose. So I recommend taking a look at Client Hub. I've only recently discovered the power. It's a fairly new app, but find some things to solve your pain points. Ugh, man, I hate the word pain points. I am so sorry I just used that. You have no right to get upset with your customers if they don't get done what you didn't tell them to do. This is so key. If you didn't tell them to do it, if you weren't clear, and if you didn't make it easy for them, and then if you don't remind them to do it, you can't get upset with them that it's not happening. And I'm going to use the example of websites. So I'm a bookkeeper. my own books are in good shape. They are completely up to date. And my husband's business books are completely up to date. We both suck at our websites, and we're being nagged by our virtual assistants to get some stuff done on our websites. So when I hear people saying that they're mad at their customers or their customers aren't getting back to them, sometimes I know that the customers just aren't going to be a good fit anymore, and I get that. But sometimes they really need your help. They need you to make it easy, and they do need you to remind them to get some stuff done. When I get those reminders from my VA that I have not got stuff done on my website, I'm like, oh, I gotta get that done. So you got to tell them, and then you got to remind them. They got other things to do. I think I mentioned this before. Mutual respect is curated. It's so important to me that I've got it in there as a takeaway again. And I knew that this was in there. I knew this was in there twice, but I couldn't find it. There we go. Boundary setting. When you are trying to create an atmosphere of respect, boundary setting is one of the key things. And of course, I got one of my favorite little sayings in there. The only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are those who benefit from you having none. This is really just another step in collaboration. I'm going to do a quick time check. 1:36. Good. Actually, we're going to be ahead. So you need to communicate with your customers in an effective manner that works for you and works for them. I don't have the same communication methods for all of my customers. The general routine is the same, but I've got a little bit of stuff that's going to work for all of us. Setting boundaries around how they're going to communicate with you, the times that they're going to commit. I'm going to start that all over again. How they're going to communicate with you and when they're going to communicate with you create an atmosphere of respect and collaboration. Your clients won't know how to communicate with you. They won't know what your boundaries are. They won't know that you're a morning person or an evening person, and they won't know why these things matter to you if you don't tell them. So my customers know that they're not going to be able to get a hold of me after 6 o'clock in the evening. They also know they probably don't want to get a hold of me after 6 o'clock in the evening. That is not when I'm going to be of the best use for them. But I do have one customer. He and I actually do some stuff at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're both morning people, and it gets his business off to the right foot. And he's my weekly bookkeeping client that I'm full cycle for. We're both morning people. That works for us. It's terrific. I'm not sure if any of my other, I have, as I mentioned, restaurant customers, none of them are going to get a hold of me at 6 o'clock in the morning. Don't make them guess. Don't make them set their own rules. Everybody's going to do what works for them in the beginning, unless you tell them that that's not going to work for you. Define the boundaries for you and for your team. Can they contact you after business hours? Do you time block? The expectation for my customers is I'm not going to get back to them in the moment. I'm not going to be on my email. I'm not going to see what comes in every 10 minutes or whatever. I'm checking my email every couple of hours. So what's the time frame? Your time blocking. Do you block their work to certain days and then that's their day? It's a free-for-all for them. Whatever works for you. I'm not saying that anything needs to be, there's no hard and fast rules. It all has to work for you. What's the chain of contact? Who do they contact first? This is really important with if you have team members. Do they get to call anybody that they want, or is there a roll up through the hierarchy? And do you use a scheduler? I got to talk about the scheduler for a second. I am a recent convert to the scheduler. I've had the same customers for quite a long time, and we've had this loosey-goosey system, and we were going back and forth, and I thought, I don't need a scheduler. But then I started to do more consulting work. So I started using the scheduler for my consulting work because I need to set up sessions with people I don't know as well as my customers. So then I thought I was having trouble setting time with a customer. So then I thought, I'm going to send that to a customer I talk to all the time. She loved it. I thought she was going to hate it. She loved it. So now my customers, when they want to talk to me for more than a few minutes, are using my scheduler. And I got to tell you, that was a big surprise to me that they embraced it as much as I had. It's a surprise to me that I embraced it. So It's a great way of taking something off your list. Your scheduler is magically doing all of these things in the background for you. It's tremendous. And in case anybody's going to ask, I use Acuity, but there's a ton of great ones. So don't get lost in the, it has to be that one app. Take a demo of them and see what one is going to fit for you. Create a boundary statement and then make sure you share it with your customers. And I know I mentioned this, but you got to let them know what it is. Stick to the boundaries and don't deviate. My phone actually, my business phone is my home phone. I only have one phone number. So my phone goes on silent automatically from 7 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. I can take a look at it if I want, if I think I want to talk to somebody and see if somebody's gotten back to me. I have a couple of phone numbers, my kids, for example, and my mother and my mother-in-law and my brothers. So I have phone numbers that can come through, but you can find a way to manage the fact that you're not even going to be tempted to take those phone calls, to take those texts. And I'm certainly not got any notifications on email at night. So I don't deviate from it because I've actually set myself up for success on that one in that I don't even know about it. There's rarely an accounting emergency that can be solved by moving away from your boundary policies. And I do understand, I don't do payroll, so I kind of get that sometimes there's a payroll emergency, but there's a part of me that says that that payroll emergency probably could have occurred during the daytime hours. So, I mean, if they're in trouble with the CRA, they already know that. That's not an accounting emergency that a phone call right now. They're not coming to take them away to CRA jail right now. If they've frozen their bank accounts, they probably knew it was coming. You probably knew it was coming. So I'm just saying, we're not surgeons. Ask your customers if they have boundaries too. We're talking here about optimizing your customers' lives. So one of the things that I do, I'm going to go back to workflows for a minute since that's my favorite topic. So my customers have workflows. They've gotten used to using my workflows. So now they've started to develop some, and this is what I'm saying, you can have different conversations now rather than just about bookkeeping with your customers. This cloud accounting thing, it is all it's cracked up to be once you get these processes going. So I'm spending time with my customers, especially, you can imagine hiring in the restaurant industry. We've set up processes, workflows, contracts, questionnaires for hiring. We've set up time tracking for their payroll, all that kind of stuff. So my customers are adopting workflows outside of their bookkeeping now because they've gotten used to them. And they've seen the magic of not having to think about just getting stuff done. So you can talk to your customers about boundaries. Part of the way you can optimize your customers' lives is by making sure that they're not putting up with anybody's crap either. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean things are working the way that they need them to work. Plant the seed for them around balancing their needs versus those around them. And that includes their team members. You can set boundaries for their team members as well, or you can set boundaries for your own team members, but we're talking about customers here. So it would be a big benefit if they have employees that they start to set some boundaries around employee access to them or expectations of how the employees can speak to them or the methods of communications that the employees are going to do or what the chain of command is. So boundary setting for your customers is a great way to optimize their lives and add value to your services. We share a lot. Receipts, statements, CRA documents, we share a lot. What do they need to get to you? When do they need to do it? And how are they going to do it? Create a secure customer portal and bookmark it so they can always access it. This goes back to takeaway number one. Make it easy so it gets done. Don't expect them to be able to just find that secure customer portal. Bookmark it. QBOA, I actually use their shared document portal. My customers like it. They don't have to go anywhere else. I don't do taxes, so I don't need a whole heck of a lot of stuff. It's either going to go into QBOA or it's going to go into HubDoc. Share file. I know a lot of accounting professionals love share file. And as I just mentioned, utilize the document management apps. And then within those apps, we actually tag and make notes. It's another great way of communicating. In HubDocs, communicating through tags and notes has been tremendous. So for example, I have Ask Client, and they have For Kellie. And one of my clients, and I know anybody who's maybe in here who knows me, knows that one of my customers, and I love my customers, but every once in a while he'll try and slide something in, and I have a tag in HubDoc called Not a Chance of Claiming. So it's not even going into the books, and I don't have to have a discussion. He can go in there and see that it's not going in. Nice try though, buddy. Spend some time explaining not just their tech stack is, but what it's going to do for them. And then make sure they are educated and confident in using it. They'll be more engaged in their responsibilities if they feel good about the technology. Create a rock solid onboarding process. I cannot emphasize that enough. If I knew now what I knew back then, I would have had way more bulletproof processes for getting my customers on board. If you can't stomach it to do it in-house, outsource it. Setting yourself up at the beginning with your customers is game-changing with cloud accounting. Optimize your customers' browsers. So you're going to get a copy of this deck, and in here is a quick link on optimizing Chrome. I optimize my Chrome browser for my customers. This is cloud technology. It's based on the internet. It's based on using the internet properly. So take some time to help your customers understand how cloud-based technology works. Get out your pom-poms. You're going to have to be the tech cheerleader. Or make sure if you have a team member that has customer contact or you have an onboarding specialist, make sure they love the tech. If you don't love in it and you don't believe in it, why on earth would they? So we've talked about this a little bit. Like I said, some things cross over. Create videos, documentation, or collateral with links for follow-up. There's a ton of great material, especially Intuit's got a ton, but all of them have fantastic how-to videos and collateral and blog material. No need to do this again. Do not reinvent the wheel. Go ahead and use the app partners for this. Some of these suggestions may seem pushy, and I get that. One of my customers called me bossy nice, and I went, that's perfect. I love that. So now I've kind of let all of my customers know that one of them called me that, and they all kind of like that term. Just because you're pushy doesn't mean you have to be, or just because you're setting boundaries doesn't mean you have to be mean about it. You can still be kind of nice about it. You may feel that you're setting up arbitrary processes and systems, and then you're forcing them upon your customers. Perhaps you're going to feel they're going to push back or comply. Perhaps, but this is how we do it here. And they will thank you. Once they get rolling in it, if they're going to be engaged in the process at all, if they're even going to be remotely close to a good customer for you, and you're going to be a good accounting professional to them, this is how we do it here. It should be your overriding thought. And I would like to say, I kind of stole this and I changed it up a little. So this is from Laura Redmond of Arrow Workflow, who is awesome at setting boundaries, creating workflows, and setting expectations. Arrow Workflow, Laura Redmond, totally stole it from her. Your customers should consider you to be bossy nice. When you set boundaries, establish expectations, develop processes, you are empowering your customer. You're making it easy for them to communicate, collaborate, and share with you. You free up their time to do what they love, and you empower them to use the business data you have produced together to grow and prosper and succeed. You have optimized their lives. And we're done. And I think I made it on time, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, you, I'm laughing because that's kind of what we were talking about, 10 minutes, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that, really appreciate it. What we'll do is maybe we'll give it a couple minutes. We don't have any questions at the moment, but if anybody who is still online, feel free to ask questions just because we do have 10 minutes. So let's give it a couple minutes and we'll see if anything comes up.
Okay, I'm hoping it's not that we don't have questions because everybody was asleep, or that I did that thing. I have a couple of friends who tell me I'm completely and utterly overwhelming.
Well, actually, we just got one, so that's a good thing. So this one's from Teresa. So her question is, what do you use, again, for the questionnaires you send to the customers?
What do I use for the questionnaires I send to my customers?
Correct.
Yeah, so I am using questionnaires. I use a program called 17 Hats for questionnaires for my, was it questionnaires? For some reason, I can't see the question. There it is. There we go.
Yeah, questionnaires, yeah.
Yeah, so questionnaires. My questionnaires are in my program 17 Hats, but Google Forms is awesome. Typeform is fantastic. I love playing in Typeform. It's super fun. And yeah, Google Forms and Typeform would be my two go-tos if you're not in a program that has questionnaires built in.
Awesome. A couple are coming in. Just give me a second, okay? Because it's kind of hard, a little hard to navigate this.
Yeah, the panel is small. Wait, I think I'm getting it here. There, I've just made it bigger.
Amazing. Okay, we did as well.
Yes, we'll be sending you a recording.
Yes. Does Client Hub allow you to store client-specific docs in their workspace?
Yes. Yeah. Now, just to qualify on Client Hub, it is not a it's not a robust document platform like HubDoc or Receipt Bank. What it is, it's a way of getting things that are missing back and forth to each other, and it's a fantastic little communication app. It's more like chat than it is. It's not that. It's a great little app. I really recommend. I think they do their demos on Wednesdays or something. If you Google Client Hub, Judy McCarthy has a whole bunch of stuff going on. She's got a webinar series coming up over the next couple of weeks. And so it's not about document storage as much as it's about sharing stuff that's missing. And where do you find resources to set up a customer handbook? Okay, so a lot of those resources I actually got from Intuit and from HubDoc and from Pluto. I totally piggybacked on work that they had already done. I also do, and I have no idea if I'm allowed to say this, but I'll just give her a go. I sell my templates. So if you go to calmwaters.ca, you'll see that the templates for the handbook are on there for a generic version, and you can just take that, and it's HubDoc, Receipt Bank, QBO, Pluto based. That's my tech stack. You can go there and the templates are there, or use the app partners. There's a ton of great information out there.
And yeah, it's great you said that, because I know Lori kind of had a question about that, so thank you. Let's get to another one. So this one's from Veronica. If you were starting from scratch, how would you recommend starting the whole process? For example, timeline, and which ones would you tackle first?
In optimizing your customers' lives, templated emails, for sure. If you communicate using emails, template your emails. If that was the question.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so templated emails. And what do I use for automated emails? I use 17 Hats. MailChimp is fantastic. Boomerang with Gmail. But essentially, I use 17 Hats. There's a ton of great programs. MailChimp is great. It's a bit onerous to set up in the beginning. And I learned a lesson from another accounting professional I admire, so APIAs. A guy named Brian Clare is actually using MailChimp for all of his basically communications, including his onboarding. I kind of always looked at MailChimp as marketing and mass communicating. He gave me a whole new vision on it. So if anybody's interested, there's a Facebook group called the Workflow Watering Hole, and there is actually a webinar or a chat I did in there with Brian Clare all about how he's using MailChimp to drip out onboarding of his customers. It's fantastic.
Awesome. Another one. So I believe Oron, sorry if I mispronounced your name, but yes, you will get the webinar file. Also, Kelly, are you able to provide us with an email or just a list? We can send it to people that have attended, but just a list of some of the apps or majority of the apps that you have been using. Would you be okay to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love shouting out my app partners. I could not get through my day, and I certainly wouldn't have the lifestyle. And I don't mean I'm rich and famous. I'm not, because I'm kind of lazy. I just mean I wouldn't be having as much fun doing my customer work, and I wouldn't be able to do it from everywhere that I am without all of my app partners. I love to shout them out. And what I will say is that, again, in the workflow watering hole, you're certainly going to see what my app partners are. But yeah, it's based. So a great way of doing that is if you come into the workflow watering hole and somebody poses that question, there's a single place where that answer would be. Otherwise, if you hesitate to be in a Facebook group, yeah, we can definitely get that information out there. And thank you, Diane Mueller. You are always so encouraging of me. So Diane has my one of my work. I'm stumbling here. So Diane Mueller has one of my templates, and it's been working out for her. My onboarding template. That's what it is. Again, those are on my website.
Amazing. And the last one we have right now is
from Nicholas. Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to jump in. Thank you, Teresa. I'm glad you like it in there. Teresa likes the workflow watering hole.
I saw that. I know a lot of people have been, going over that and just saying how well you've been doing. I've just kind of been putting them to the side for now.
That's fine.
What is your website?
Calmwaters.ca. CALMWATERS.ca. Calmwaters.ca.
Perfect. And from the same gentleman that asked that, where do you find resources to set up a customer handbook?
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought I had answered that one. App partners are terrific. I have templates on my website, but again, the app partners, don't reinvent any of this of the wheel. Shortly after I did my glossary, Intuit came out with an even better glossary that I would have just totally liked to have used, but I already had mine set up. So they have links to that whole reporting piece, why reports matter. I totally took those links from Intuit. Yeah, go to the app partners. HubDoc's got a ton of great stuff on their website, a ton.
This might be a tough one to answer. It's a question, but I'm going to say it more as like a hypothetical. You probably see it. But hypothetically speaking, say somebody works at an employer, an accounting firm or a bookkeeping firm, and they were offered an office to work there. Do you think it is advisable, like, to stay with them or potentially maybe open up their own business? Like, how would you talk about something like that?
Yeah, that's a bit of a hypothetical question. I mean, you got to ask yourself how you want to spend your day and who you want to spend it with. How much money you want to make. I think you need to do a bit of a life evaluation. My ideal client statement is of so much value to me. I spent a lot of time defining my ideal customer because that also defines how I want to spend my day, what my tech stack is, where I want to work from. So I made an entire list a couple of years ago. I had another business. I had a marketing business, and I had to make the decision whether I was going to keep that rolling at the same time, even though I was loving more and more being a bookkeeper. And so I really had to do a full evaluation of my life and what I wanted my business day to look like and who I wanted to spend it with. So I think it's worth doing that, for sure.
Thank you. We got 2 minutes. Nothing. No more new questions. There's been quite a few.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna speak to this one last topic. If you like working in one place, if you don't want to work remote, and again, this is all hypothetical, and you like working with them. So I have a customer that when I am in town, I actually do go to their office on Tuesdays, and I work for 4 hours a day there every Tuesday, half the year, because I love being with them. So that's part of my ideal customer statement. Although I'm a remote cloud-based bookkeeper, I do go to their office once a week because it's just so fun to be there. And they bought dog beds for both my dogs.
Amazing. Okay. Perfect. Well, on that note, just a quick little little tad bit of information. We are hosting our next Business Builder webinar. It's on October 30th. So anybody who sees value in these things, please feel free to register for it. It's something that we're trying to do. I know we've done a couple of them so far, so it's going to be an ongoing series that we host. But other than that, I guess there's no more questions. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate your time and your efforts in doing this. It's been awesome. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the 50 so odd people that actually joined have probably learned a lot as well. So thanks so much for your time, and hopefully everybody has a nice day.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you everybody for taking the time to be here. That was, thank you very much. And we're going to end the webinar, right? I have no idea how to end the webinar. Did we end the webinar?